My family skipped my trade school graduation, said they were busy. But they all went to my niece's kindergarten ceremony. I didn't complain. Just bought a duplex. If you told me 2 years ago that I'd be crying alone in the back seat of my own truck wearing a cap and gown that smelled like plastic and disappointment, I would have asked you how you knew my life so well. It was supposed to be one of the proudest days of my life. After 2.5 years of sweat, soldering burns, and learning how not to electrocute myself, I was officially a licensed electrician. I made it through trade school, top of my class, actually, and was ready to walk that stage with my steel-toed boots squeaking on the gymnasium floor. I'd sent out invitations, just like everyone else. My mom, my dad, my sister, my Uncle Terry, even Nana Jean, who once called my career path adorable but temporary. They all said the same thing in various forms. "We're so proud of you, honey, but we might not be able to make it. Things are just really hectic right now." Right? Hectic. In late May. During a week with perfect weather and no holidays. Sure. But I brushed it off. I've always been the quiet achiever in the family. The fixer, the helper, the one who rewires the basement, while my cousin gets a standing ovation for making deviled eggs. So I figured they'd surprise me. That they'd come anyway. I even saved seats. 4 of them. Front row. When my name was called, I stepped onto that stage smiling like someone who still had hope. Looked out over the crowd. Scanned for familiar faces. Nothing. Just a sea of polite claps and disinterested toddlers playing on iPads. I got my certificate, shook my instructor's hand, and sat back down. The moment it hit me, the exact second, was when they told us to throw our caps. Everyone around me screamed and cheered. I hesitated. Then I threw mine too. And it came back down and landed in the aisle next to a pair of Crocs and an empty Starbucks cup. Poetic. Afterward, my classmates were surrounded by moms with flowers, dads with video cameras, siblings doing TikTok dances. I walked myself to my truck, climbed into the driver's seat, and stared at my certificate. It was rolled up and tied with a red ribbon that someone's grandma had probably volunteered to curl. I unrolled it slowly and read it like I didn't already know what it said. Tyler James Cartwright, Certificate in Electrical Technology, with distinction. Then I sat in silence, the kind of silence that makes your ears ring. I didn't even turn the radio on. Just sat there, sweaty in my gown, while the AC rattled and a graduation balloon bounced sadly against my passenger window. The clerk at Party Barn had told me the balloon would last all week. It barely lasted the drive home. I tossed it in the trash when I got back to my apartment. I didn't text anyone. I didn't post anything. I didn't want pity comments or "you'll get them next time" messages from people who still think trade school is where you go when you flunk out of life. I just changed out of my gown, took a long shower, and made myself a grilled cheese with extra cheese. Because if no one else was going to celebrate me, then damn it, I'd celebrate myself with lactose. That night, I lit a candle, cracked a cold one, and hung my certificate on the wall next to my old high school diploma, the one my parents had made a huge deal about. I'd graduated high school with average grades and a raging case of imposter syndrome, and they threw a backyard barbecue with matching t-shirts and a slideshow. This time? Just me. And the one tiny voice in my head whispering, "You did it." 2 days after graduation, I was scrolling through Facebook while waiting for my laundry to finish spinning its way into wrinkled chaos. I wasn't looking for anything in particular, just half zoning out, half wondering if anyone had posted about the graduation I'd already emotionally filed under events that never happened. That's when I saw it. A photo album titled, "Our Little Graduate Graduation Cap Emoji, 2 hearts, so proud of Lily's big day." Lily, my 5-year-old niece. My sister Megan's daughter. The same Megan who told me she was crazy busy with work and so bummed she couldn't make it to my trade school ceremony. There she was, Lily, front and center, holding a glittery cardboard diploma with one of those kindergarten-sized grins that could power a small city. And surrounding her? My entire family. Mom, Dad, Megan, Uncle Terry, Nana Jean, even Cousin Matt, who once said he doesn't do children's events because they smell like paste and regret. They were all there. Smiling, matching t-shirts that said, "Class of Cutie 2036. Someone even brought a damn balloon arch. There were 24 pictures in that album. 24. Not one of them featured me, obviously, but I counted how many times the word proud was used in the captions. 12, half the captions. One read, "So proud of our future leader." Another, "Couldn't miss this for the world, 2 heart sparkles." Oh, couldn't miss it? Weird. Because when it was my turn to walk across the stage, after wiring model breaker panels and passing a grueling state exam with a migraine, everyone suddenly had car trouble, dental work, and surprise deadlines. I stared at the photos a long time. Too long. You know when you look at something so long it starts to lose meaning? That happened somewhere around the shot of Nana Jean holding a kinder grad cutie sign and making duck lips. I didn't cry. Not this time. I just closed the app, sat on the floor next to my laundry basket, and laughed. One of those bitter, popcorn kernels stuck in your teeth laughs. It wasn't that I resented Lily. She's 5. Her biggest stress in life is whether she gets the glitter crayon before Ethan from pre-K does. But my family? They treated her kindergarten ceremony like the Met Gala. They gave my graduation the same energy people give when they cancel plans by pretending their cat got food poisoning. I didn't say anything. Didn't comment on the post. Didn't text Megan. I knew what would happen. She'd reply, "Oh my God, Tyler, you're being ridiculous. Lily's 5. Of course, we had to go. You'll have other graduations. Right. Because everyone knows you graduate trade school every other weekend. It's like brunch, right? I thought about confronting them. Then I thought about who that would serve. And the answer was, no one. Because my family wasn't going to wake up one day and say, hey, maybe we've treated Tyler like the family side quest his whole life. They'd just call me dramatic, oversensitive, bitter. So I didn't complain, didn't explain, didn't defend my worth. Instead, I made a new plan. If I wasn't going to be celebrated, I'd build a life that didn't need their applause. If they thought trade school was just something I did while I figured things out, then I was going to show them what figuring it out really looked like. No matching t-shirts, no balloon arches, no #family albums, just progress, quiet, determined, personal. So I opened a new savings account. Named it Duplex Fund. Then I got to work. People think trade school is the end of the journey. That once you get certified, you suddenly wake up with a toolbox full of money and a client list that books itself. Yeah, no. I started at the bottom, like everyone else. Apprentice pay, long days, weird hours. I worked for a small family-owned outfit where the trucks ran like they had PTSD and half the jobs required crawling under people's houses while avoiding spiders the size of emotional trauma. But I didn't complain. Not once. Because I had a goal now. A plan. I'd named my savings account Duplex Fund, not as a joke, but as a promise. Every Friday when my paycheck hit, I'd transfer a chunk into that account before I even touched rent, groceries, or the occasional very necessary bag of hot Cheetos. It didn't matter if it was $50 or $300, that money moved first. Like clockwork. While my friends were out at bars or posting pictures of skyline views with the caption Friday vibes, I was eating microwave rice bowls and watching YouTube videos about property taxes and foundation repair. At first it felt sad. Then it felt powerful. Because every dollar saved was one step closer to never having to beg for respect again. My truck was old. The AC worked about 40% of the time and the driver's side door creaked like a haunted house. But I kept it clean, patched what I could, and turned up the music to drown out the clanking. Sometimes I imagined what my family thought I was doing. Probably assumed I was still trying to figure out what I wanted to do. Maybe they thought I lived with roommates in a messy apartment with a milk crate coffee table and a vague sadness. Truth? I lived alone. Small studio. Not fancy, but clean. Paid my bills on time. My fridge wasn't full, but it wasn't empty either. I owned 3 real screwdrivers. That's 3 more than my dad ever bothered with. My mom would send the occasional hope you're doing okay text, usually sandwiched between a picture of her brunch and a Lily update. I always replied the same way. Yeah, I'm good. Working a lot. And that was true. I was working all the time. By month 4, I started picking up side jobs on the weekend, small stuff, wiring ceiling fans, swapping outlets. One time I fixed an elderly lady's light switch, and she paid me in banana bread and a $10 Starbucks card. I didn't care. That switch worked like a dream and the bread slapped. The Duplex Fund grew slowly. Sometimes by inches, sometimes by surprise. Like the week I got tipped $200 cash from a guy who said, "You're the first person who's ever shown up on time." By month 12, I had just enough in the account to start seriously browsing Zillow listings. Not dream house browsing. Not let me pin this for later Pinterest scrolling. Real browsing. I filtered for multifamily. Under $180,000. Semi-decent neighborhood. Doesn't look like it was used in a horror movie. The first dozen were trash. Moldy basements, weird layouts. One had a toilet in the kitchen. Not beside it, in it. But then I found her. A tired-looking beige-painted brick duplex just 15 minutes from where I worked. Faded shutters, overgrown lawn, but the bones were there. Side-by-side units, separate entrances, garage, basement. And best of all, it was priced just low enough to make me think I might actually be able to pull this off. I called the agent, booked a tour, and stood in the driveway 2 days later with my steel toes on and a clipboard in hand like I was auditioning for a home renovation show called Slightly Stressed, Moderately Hopeful. It smelled musty. The paint was peeling. The kitchen cabinets were straight out of 1993. But as I walked through that house, all I could see was potential. I didn't tell my family I was making an offer. Didn't post about it, didn't text anyone. Just me, my savings account, and a vision. And when the offer was accepted, I sat on my apartment floor with a beer, looked at the email, and whispered, "You did it, man." No applause. No balloon arches. Just silence and peace. Closing day felt like a fever dream wrapped in paperwork. I showed up to the title office in my only decent button-down, the one I usually saved for weddings and utility company complaints, and tried to act like signing a stack of legal documents didn't make me want to both throw up and weep with joy. The seller, a grumpy old guy named Ron, handed me the keys like he was giving away a burdensome child. "Needs work," he said. "The upstairs unit smells like fried onions in defeat. But it's solid." "Same could be said about me," I replied. He didn't laugh. But the receptionist did, and that was enough to keep my confidence intact. When I pulled into the driveway of my duplex for the first time, I sat there for a good 10 minutes before getting out. Just stared at it. The paint was a weird yellow tan that looked like it lost an argument with time, and the mailbox was hanging by one rusty screw, but it was mine. 2 units. 1 title. 0 backup plans. I walked up to the door and unlocked it, slow like I was expecting someone to stop me. No alarms went off. No one popped out yelling just kidding. I stepped inside. The floors creaked like a bad omen. The windows hadn't been cleaned since Obama's first term, and there was an entire family of spiders living in the corner of the bathroom like they'd been paying rent. But again, mine. The first night, I camped out in the downstairs unit with a sleeping bag, a frozen pizza, and a toolkit. It was 62 degrees inside, and the only light that worked was in the hallway, but I didn't care. I was warm in the way that mattered. Over the next few weeks, I worked every evening after my shift. Electrical work first, obviously, swapped out ancient light fixtures, rewired the crusty kitchen sockets, and installed motion lights out front so my future tenants wouldn't feel like they were auditioning for a crime documentary every time they got home. I painted, patched, caulked, and cursed, learned how to tile a backsplash with YouTube and sheer rage, hauled a vintage sofa out of the upstairs unit with my bare hands and nearly died when it tried to take me with it down the stairs. Almost broke my foot, but hey, character building. During this whole time, I never said a word to my family. Not when I closed. Not when I patched the first hole in the drywall. Not even when I found an old shoebox full of expired coupons in the attic labeled maybe later fund, do not throw out. Because it was my dream now. And I wasn't interested in the commentary section of people who only paid attention when there was cake involved. I thought about telling them, maybe texting mom a picture of the deed or casually dropping the phrase investment property into the group chat just to see who salivated first. But then I remembered that no one had time to show up for my graduation, that they'd all made matching signs for Lily's macaroni diploma, and had the gall to post it like a Hallmark ad. The more I thought about it, the more I realized this was exactly what I needed to do, build something without their validation, without their input, without their inevitable opinions about what I should be doing instead. I could already hear it. Real estate is so risky, Tyler. Are you sure you know what you're doing? Maybe you should have talked to your dad first. My dad, who still called a handyman every time a light bulb burned out. My mom, who thought my electrical work was cute but kept asking when I'd go back to school for something more stable. They'd find a way to make my success about their concerns, about how I was being reckless, about how I should have asked for help they never actually offered. I started keeping a mental list of all the times I've been the family's unpaid maintenance crew. The weekend I spent rewiring Megan's entire basement while she took Lily to a spa day. The time I drove 2 hours to fix Uncle Terry's garage door opener during a snowstorm, only to have him forget to mention it at Christmas dinner when he was bragging about his new contractor. The countless times I'd been the one who showed up with tools when something broke, and the one who got a casual thanks while everyone else got elaborate appreciation posts for bringing dessert to family gatherings. I thought about my high school friend Marcus, who'd gone the traditional college route and was now drowning in student loan debt while working at a coffee shop, still trying to find himself. His parents talked about his degree like it was a Nobel Prize, even though he was making less money than I was and living in their basement. But he had their approval, their pride, their matching t-shirts at graduation. Meanwhile, I was out here building actual wealth, actual skills, actual independence, and I was the family afterthought. The one who figured it out in a way that apparently didn't count because it didn't fit their narrow definition of success. It stung, but it also clarified something for me. I didn't need their approval anymore. I needed their absence from my decision-making process. So, I didn't say anything. Instead, I worked. I made a spreadsheet, listed rent prices, interviewed tenants, took reference calls from nervous cosigners. I even practiced saying, "We'll be doing a background check," in a tone that said I own clipboards and expectations. Eventually, I found them, Jamie and Nick. A teacher and a mechanic. Young couple, sweet, responsible, and genuinely excited to move into a place that didn't smell like despair. We signed the lease on a Wednesday. They moved in on Saturday. I gave them a welcome basket with local takeout menus, a plunger, and a bag of peanut M&Ms. It's what I'd want. That night, I posted one single photo to Instagram. Me standing in front of the duplex with a thumbs up and the caption, "Excited to welcome my first tenants. Duplex life begins." That was it. No tags. No drama. Just a simple fact. But apparently, facts travel. By the next morning, my phone was on fire. It started with a question from my mom. Just that, a single question mark, texted at 6:48 a.m. like I'd accidentally posted a photo of myself committing tax fraud. I didn't reply. By 7:15 a.m., the family group chat was alive for the first time in weeks. "Megan, wait, you bought a duplex? Since when? Uncle Terry, that's your place?" I thought it was a Craigslist joke. "Mom, are you serious about this, Tyler? Nana Jean, is this safe? Duplexes are for people in crime dramas." Megan again, "OMG, you should have told us." The notifications kept coming. Cousin Matt, who hadn't texted me in 3 years, suddenly appeared with "Dude, property owner now." That's wild. Even my dad's brother from Oregon, who I'd met maybe 5 times in my life, somehow found out and sent a friend request with a message about family supporting family and real estate ventures. It was fascinating, really. Like watching vultures circle, but the vultures were wearing holiday sweaters and had strong opinions about my life choices. Where were all these people when I was eating ramen for dinner 6 nights a week to save money? Where were they when I was watching YouTube videos about mortgage rates instead of going out with friends? I scrolled through years of group chat history, mostly them sharing photos of Lily's latest art project or Megan's new haircut, with my contributions being the occasional congrats or looks great. I was the audience, not the star. Never the star. Even when I'd shared a photo of my first big electrical job, installing a whole panel box from scratch, I got 3 reactions: a thumbs up from Uncle Terry, a be careful from Mom, and nothing from Megan. But now? Now I was interesting. Now I was worth their attention. It wasn't love, it was curiosity mixed with something that felt uncomfortably like envy. Yeah. Like I should have told you about my trade school graduation and how I walked across the stage to the sound of other people's applause and zero eye contact from my own bloodline. I let the text pile up. Mom sent a second one directly to me. You should have said something. We could have helped. That one made me laugh out loud in the middle of the Home Depot parking lot, holding a 3-pack of sink stoppers and a gallon of mildew-resistant paint. You could have helped? Like you helped when I asked if anyone could come to my graduation and got 12 variations of So Busy and Next Time? But again, I didn't respond. Because what was the point? My family hadn't really seen me in years. Not really. To them, I was the backup singer in the grand musical that was Megan and Lily's lives. The guy who fixed their lights, helped move their furniture, and got a pat on the head whenever he wasn't wearing grease-stained jeans. So now that I was wearing a metaphorical tie and holding a lease agreement? Now they cared. I told Jamie and Nick to ignore any cars that slowed down suspiciously up front. I knew my family's recon tactics. They weren't subtle. If Megan showed up with a pie, it meant she wanted info. If Mom sent a plant, it meant she was trying to dig roots in something she ignored until it bloomed. 3 days after the posts, I got the inevitable call from my dad. Hey, bud, he said in that voice he used when he wanted to sound casual, but was actually auditioning for an Oscar in the category of supporting actor in a surprised father role. Hey, I replied, dry as drywall. So, this duplex thing. That's real? Yep. Silence. Well, that's impressive. Didn't know you were even looking. I was. Wow. And tenants already? Yep. Another pause. You could hear the sound of him realizing I didn't need his approval. It was almost musical. We should come by sometime. You know, see the place. Celebrate. I resisted the urge to snort. Instead, I said, I'm hosting a little barbecue this weekend. Mostly friends, co-workers, some trade school buddies. I'll let you know if I need chairs. Okay, he said, like I just told him I joined a traveling mom troupe. The barbecue wasn't fancy. Just a few lawn chairs, a borrowed grill, and a Spotify playlist that alternated between pop hits and 80s soul because I have range. Jamie brought potato salad. Nick brought a Bluetooth speaker and an actual table, bless him. We ate, laughed, and celebrated a house, my house, being full of people who showed up because they wanted to, not because they were obligated to take a family photo. Halfway through the evening, my phone buzzed. Another text from Megan. Just saw your post. Looks like fun. You know we would have come if you invited us. I stared at that message for a long time. Then, finally I replied, you said you were busy? 2 days after I texted Megan back, a gray SUV pulled into the duplex driveway during my lunch break. I was on the porch, eating leftover burgers from the barbecue, scrolling through DIY HVAC forums like the modern homeowner I had apparently become, when I saw the car creep in like it was afraid of commitment. It was my mom, wearing oversized sunglasses, clutching her purse like the house might rob her. She stepped out, looked around with a blend of judgment and confusion, then gave me the kind of wave people use at the grocery store when they pretend they weren't just talking about you in all four. Hey sweetheart. She chirped, walking toward the porch like it hadn't been years since she'd visited anything I owned. I was in the area and thought I'd stop by. In the area? I asked, raising an eyebrow. This place is 40 minutes from your Pilates studio. She paused. Well, okay, I saw your post. And your sister's upset. She didn't expect you to be so cold. Yes. Cold. The universal word for didn't prioritize us after we deprioritized you. I didn't invite her in. Just stood there on the porch with my paper plate and burger like it was a shield. I just don't get it, she continued. Why not say something? We could have celebrated with you. Helped? Like you helped with my graduation? Her jaw tightened. That was a misunderstanding. It was a pattern. Silence. She looked past me into the window. Probably saw the new laminate floors I installed with my own 2 hands. The framed lease agreement on the wall. The life that was building itself, brick by brick, without her. I know we've made mistakes, Tyler, she said quietly. But this, cutting us out? It's extreme. I shrugged. It's not about cutting anyone out. I just stopped waiting for people to show up. She sighed. A long, theatrical sigh that deserved its own stage lighting. You've changed, she said, not quite kindly. I had to. The weight of that statement hung between us like a bridge neither of us wanted to cross. I thought about the person I used to be, the one who would have apologized for making her drive 40 minutes, who would have invited her in for coffee and pretended everything was fine. The one who would have downplayed my accomplishments to make everyone else comfortable. Oh, it's not that big of a deal, I would have said. I just got lucky with the timing. But that version of me was exhausted. He'd been running on fumes for years, powered by the hope that if he just kept being helpful, kept being understanding, kept being the easy one, eventually someone would notice. Eventually someone would show up. Eventually someone would care as much about his wins as they did about a 5-year-old's finger painting. Standing there on my own porch, holding my own keys to my own property, I realized that the person I'd become wasn't bitter or cold. He was just done performing for an audience that had already decided he wasn't worth the price of admission. You know what the sad part is? I said finally. I would have been happy if even one of you had come. Just one. I would have forgiven all of it if just one person had shown up and said I'm proud of you. She looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw something flicker across her face that might have been recognition. Or regret. Or both. Tyler. But you didn't. And now I don't need you to. She stared at me for a second longer, like she was trying to spot her old reflection in a mirror that didn't exist anymore. Then she turned, walked back to the SUV, and drove off without another word. That night, I got a call from Nana Jean, which was unexpected, because the last time she called me, it was to say my haircut looked too liberal and hang up mid-sentence. She opened with, "Your mother's crying. And Megan says you're being dramatic." Was it dramatic when none of you showed up to my graduation, but wore matching outfits for Lily's? There was a pause. That was different. No, it wasn't. More silence. "Look," she finally said, "you're not wrong to feel hurt. But family forgives." "Sure," I said. "But family also remembers." I hung up after that. Politely. No yelling. No slamming phones. Just done. The next day, I got another message. This time from Megan's husband, Corey, a man whose greatest life accomplishment was getting his real estate license and never using it, and who once compared my career to being like a fancy janitor. "Corey, look man, not to stir the pot, but this is kinda petty. Over a graduation? Come on. Just invite the fam over. Let it go." I didn't respond. Because it wasn't about a single graduation. It was about every dinner skipped, every celebration ignored, every time I fixed their outlets and got paid in. Thanks champ. While Daniel from Lily's daycare got a $500 gift card for turning 3. And now that I had something they could put on a family newsletter? Now they wanted in. Nah. I poured myself a beer, turned on some music, and grilled myself another burger, medium rare, with pickles and defiance. The porch light flickered once, then stayed on. Just like me. The family group chat imploded the next morning. It started with one of those long, overly punctuated texts from my mom, the kind where every sentence feels like it's trying to win most dramatic in a local Facebook moms group. "Mom, Tyler, this behavior isn't just hurtful, it's shocking. We are your family. We love you. But this wall you've put up is heartbreaking. I can't sleep. Megan's been crying. Please don't throw away your family over a misunderstanding." That word again. Misunderstanding. Like I'd misheard the silence when no one RSVP'd to my graduation. Like I'd misread the social media posts celebrating Lily's construction paper diploma. Like I'd misunderstood the years of being told I was so independent. Every time I asked for help and got a pat on the back and a coupon for fast food instead. I didn't respond. So naturally, Megan jumped in. "Megan, if you're gonna punish the whole family just because you didn't communicate, that's on you. We weren't trying to hurt you." Me, finally, "You didn't have to try. You just had to do nothing." Megan, wow. Dramatic much? And that's when it snapped. All of it. The years I bit my tongue. The thankless DIY repairs. The birthdays where I got a card and hope you're doing well while Megan got wine tastings and balloon deliveries. The constant narrative that I was fine and low maintenance, code for not worth the same effort. So I wrote one message. Not long. Not fancy. Just true. Me, this isn't about one graduation. It's about every time I showed up and you didn't. Every time I was the helper, the background character, the one who got told you were so strong when what I needed was support. And now that I've got something to show for myself, suddenly you want in? Nah. I'm good. I muted the chat after that. Didn't block them. Just silenced the noise. And for the first time, I didn't feel guilty about it. Later that week, Jamie brought over brownies and we ate them on the porch while watching Nick try to back the moving truck into the narrow driveway like he was playing emotional Jenga. "I heard your mom came by," she said gently. "Yeah," I said. "She brought guilt and opinions. Didn't stay long." Jamie smiled. "Well, if it helps, you seem lighter." I thought about it. I did feel lighter. Not because I'd cut people off, but because I'd finally stopped handing them scissors and calling it love. The next night, I found an envelope on my porch. No name. No stamp. Just one sheet of paper inside. "We're trying. We just didn't realize we needed to. Love, Mom." I stared at it for a minute. Then folded it up, set it on the kitchen counter, and let it sit there next to the light bill and a takeout menu. Because that's where it belonged now, in the background. Not front and center, not urgent, just there. The old me would have texted back immediately, would have said, "It's okay. I understand." Even when I didn't. But now I was learning that forgiveness doesn't have to mean access. That growth sometimes looks like saying, "I love you, but I'm not handing you the mic anymore." Later that week, Nick and I finally got the backyard fire pit working. We roasted marshmallows like we were 12 and argued about which 90s movie had the best soundtrack. And as I sat there, smoking my hoodie and chocolate on my fingers, I realized something. I didn't need a big confrontation. I didn't need a Hallmark ending or a perfect Instagram story. I just needed peace. And for the first time in my life, I built it myself. A month after the barbecue, I came home from a long job rewiring an old church basement and found a letter in my mailbox. No return address. Just my name in familiar handwriting. Inside? A birthday card. From Megan. It said, "Happy 27. We miss you." No gift. No phone call. No mention of the duplex. Just that one line. I didn't text back. Didn't rage or rejoice. I just set it in a drawer next to the old tape measure Grandpa left me when he passed. The one with the paint marks and the worn out numbers that still work just fine. Because some things don't need to be flashy to be useful. That weekend, I had a few friends over. Jamie brought cookies, Nick grilled again, and a couple of new neighbors stopped by with housewarming candles and stories about their noisy dogs. We laughed, swapped stories, and played terrible music off someone's cracked Bluetooth speaker. At one point, someone asked, "Where is your family tonight?" I smiled. "Busy," I said. Then I walked back inside. My house, my keys, my walls, my life. And for the first time, it didn't feel like something I had to explain. It just felt right.